An individual decided to post a critique of the artwork of Yaira using this page as an example. Uh, the individual in question is young Riffa. And yeah, let's get into this. So, again, they have one, two, three, four paragraphs stating their critiques. And also on here, they have notes pointing and examples given. So, actually, this is pretty well done as far as posting the critique of something goes. But how valid are his critiques? Well, let's look at this. Yaira's neck is broken in this page. Her spinal column is going one way, then sharply snaps in another direction. And he is referring to this panel right here, that image right there. As you can tell, no one's neck does this, and then it goes, line draws there, and then he drew in the spinal column, arrows pointing the direction the spinal column is going, and then arrows pointing the direction her head is going. So, let's zoom in here. First of all, he's wrong. Okay? Look at the way he drew the spinal column. If her spinal column was like that, she would have a severe case of scoliosis. And then, of course, there's a line going up with the spinal column. The arrow is pointing the direction the head is going. There's nothing about the direction her head is going that would indicate that it snaps sharply in any direction or an opposite direction of the spine to where it will break her neck. And to sit there and say nobody's neck does this, I can lay most people, I would say, could take their head, lay it to the side to where their ear touches their shoulder without any pain or discomfort and without doing any damage. Most people can rotate their head to the side and touch their chin to their shoulder without any pain, discomfort, or damaging their neck any way, shape, or form. And Yaira's head is slightly tilted and even less slightly rotated. There's nothing in this, the way her position of her neck is, that would break it. And also, this muscle here, neck muscle, goes up behind the ear. This muscle on the other side does the same thing. Where they intersect right there is in between the collarbones or the clavicles, where they connect to the sternum. And if you draw a line from this intersecting part down, it goes in between the boobs. That is the center point of the front of her torso. Now you got to keep in mind that yes, this is a two-dimensional drawing, but in the reality, quote-unquote reality that Yaira is in, she would be a three-dimensional being. Three-dimensional beings have depth and mass. So she wouldn't be flat, she would be three-dimensional. This is the front portion, this is the back portion. Center line, intersecting point, center line going down to the front. So therefore, her right down there, the spine would be right there. But it would be more up and down and not at a tilt, which this individual has it drawn. Get rid of all this. See how it's tilted? But her body is more so going up and down, not tilted. If her body was lined up with her spine, she would be more tilted this way, like that. Now, there are things to critique about this panel right here, but I'll get to that in a second because I want to address some other things really quick, going in order. Right here he says, number 2, Canaan White's cross-hatching signatures all over this. Either he did a pass over this during file sharing, or he set up some custom cross-hatching brushes and handed them over to Deborah. And he also states that there is no judgment here, just an observation. So he's not really passing any judgment on regarding that. But with this, I'll say this: artists make specialized brushes all the time. Either they give them away, share them for free, or they sell them. This is nothing new, so there's no issue with regard to that. And this person even states that there's no judgment there with regard to that. And if Canaan White did a pass over her artwork doing file sharing, meaning that Deborah drew the work, gave them to Kanan, and then Kanan went in there and cleaned some stuff up, added some stuff to them. That's not so much of a big issue in and of itself as well. At least I don't think. It just depends on who you ask and what your personal preference is. But there has been some criticisms in regards to this book and Deborah's artwork, and that criticism was that the book was redrawn. And people speculate this simply because there was a page that was shared in ISOM 2 of Yaira breaking into a prison, and then that same page was, or the page in question was, excuse me, in the final product, but you can clearly see where it was redrawn, and the quality of the artwork was better than what was seen in the panel in the previews that was shared in ISOM 2. And the thing that was pointed out was saying that, this artist would not have been able to improve that much in that little bit of time. Now, a couple things you could look at: either one, the panel, it was drawn by somebody else, or there was heavy assist by other artists in regards to Deborah's work in that regard, or when Deborah drew that first panel, she half-assed it. And then she had to step her game up and redraw the book. Or, maybe it's a combination of several things like that. Could it be a situation where somebody redrew the book for her or redrew portions of it? Could be. Could it be a situation where Joe Bennett or Kanan White had to go in there and, rough the thing out, and then Deborah went over there and redrew it? That could be also. Is that an issue? I don't know. It depends on what you feel about it. I would say if you're an artist hired to do a book, then you should draw the book and, be able to do so without having to have any assistance there as well, unless it's a situation. I know in Life of Captain Marvel, Carlos Pacheco, or Pacheco, however you pronounce the name, he drew that book, and excuse me, there were flashback sequences that another artist drew, but Carlos did the rough layouts for those flashbacks. So I'm not sure if he did the layouts and then the other artist drew over the layouts, or if the other artist just looked at the rough layouts and then, looking at them, copied them and drew them in their own style. But you could tell that it was in the artist's own style in that regard. So this is a valid criticism. I would say that to the valid criticism with no judgment. That's a fair assessment right there. And of course, then we have the rapist prisoner is a blind man. He's looking into space in front of him where he thinks she is. And so let's look at that picture right there. And this is another point of criticism, but that would have been more valid than the spinal criticism. But his eyes are going down here when she is right there, so he should be looking at her right there. Maybe he's checking out her elbows. Maybe he has a thing for elbows. He's like, hey man, girl, those elbows. You know what I'm saying? But I was looking at this thing, and first I thought something's off here. And not the spine, but this individual right here. Because I was thinking he looks tilted in comparison to her. Because if she's supposed to be up and down like this, and he's tilted, he's like this, then he is tilted, tilted. And then, upon further inspection, I noticed that he's in line with the background. See how the background goes? The background is tilted, so as if it's on a French curve. Is it a French curve? No, it's a Dutch curve. It's on looks like it's tilted like it's a Dutch curve. And he's in line with the background. He is tilted where she is up and down. So she is out of alignment with the entire background. So that would be a better criticism than the spine. Yeah. Let's look at this other criticism right here. The fourth and last one. Deborah has no sense of proportion. Yaira's arms during a palm strike is such that her wrist would be at her knees if she was standing up straight. Now, this is the image in question. What I did was I separated I divided the arm up like so. And then I use something to measure from here to here. And if I do that, then her arm would come to about right there. And then measure from there to there. The arm would come down to about right here. So yes, that is a correct assessment. Her arm would be too long for her body. So that is an anatomical mistake. But here's the thing. Artists make anatomical mistakes all the time, okay? One of my favorite artists, Barry Windsor Smith, made an anatomical mistake. And I think Barry Windsor Smith's anatomy is superb. I think he's a fantastic artist. I hold him in such high regard. But this cover of Weapon X, the arm goes up this way, and it goes up this way. And if you continue all the way through, it will be there. But the claws are over here. So those aren't lined up correctly. So that's obviously an anatomical mistake. Now you can sit there and say, but his fist is curved, his wrist is bent, and his fist is curved over, and it lines up with the arm perfectly that way. If that was the case, then the claws would be coming out this way, as opposed to going straight up and down like that. No, that is a mistake on Barry Windsor's part. Plus, this arm is way too long. His wrist would be about right here. His fist would be about right here. His claws would be about right here. And given the length of the claws, his claws would either not be penetrate through the body, or they would barely be poking out the other side, because Barry Windsor Smith does not draw Wolverine's claws that big or that long, as you can see right here. He draws them short. I think he does the best job of drawing the claws as far as the size of them goes, because it makes the most sense anatomically. To where it makes sense when he retracts them into his arm, they would actually fit in his arm. So artists make mistakes anatomically all the time. That's just a nitpick. Now, this irritates the crap out of me because this is a beautiful image, but that I can see where that could irritate the crap out of you. So if this bothers you, her arm being that long, I understand. But again, it is a nitpick. And just as the eyes are a nitpick. An annoying nitpick, but still a nitpick all the same. This is an example of, if I had to guess, this is an example of this individual right here obviously has some sort of an issue with Eric July. Well, I am assuming the individual has an issue with Eric July. And usually if you have an issue with someone or something, you are more critical of it than you would be if you didn't have an issue, or if you liked somebody or something, you would be less critical, and then you would be more forgiving of any mistakes or mishaps. And I think that this is just an example of that. I think that, or maybe they just want to jump on the bandwagon and criticize Eric July and the Rippaverse, and this is their way of doing that. I think if they were fans of the Rippaverse, then I don't think that they would be as critical of this, and especially making poor criticisms such as that spine. But, it is what it is. But overall, I would say that the first one, invalid, piss poor criticism. Second one's fair. Third one's a nitpick, but it's fair. Fourth one's a nitpick, but it's fair. So, 3 out of 4 is not bad. And as a reward, there's Brie Larson for you. Anyway, thanks for watching the video. Leave your comments in the comment section down below. And like, share, all that stuff. And until next time, I will catch you on the flip side.